Welcome. My name is Ken Gonzalez, and welcome to this session of TFT13 with my friend Matt Beran. I am your guide for this particular session on the Americas portion of TFT13. I'm hoping at some point during the course of the session, Mr. George Spalding will be joining us to participate in the Q&A and whatever else we happen to do with Matt. For those of you that are participating on social media, please use the TFT13 hashtag. We'll be tracking TweetDeck and all of our other clients to find your questions and comments, and we'll use those as part of whatever Q&A we have left over once Matt has worked his magic. And I'm very happy to be able to introduce Matt because he's likely best known to you as one of the three musketeers with the ITSM weekly podcast, providing the snarky comments and lots of fun stuff in the background. He's a service management professional at Maryville Technologies. He's also a leader in driving successful change within organizations through directly addressing the changes that are up or becoming part of a team that can benefit from the change. So from a logistics standpoint, Matt, I'm going to both mute myself and hide the video for the portion that you're going to be talking so we can be totally focused on you and what you got to say. So with that, Matt, take it away, sir.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Thanks for having me. And thanks for hosting this presentation and all of the U.S. time zones. It's actually quite an honor to be here. Being voted in just has that prestige that's beyond what I'm used to seeing. In any case, I'm here to talk to you about culture. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get right into it because there's a lot of other things that you can focus your attention on right now, including your daily job, and you're not doing that. So thank you for paying attention to me. So this is really about how culture directly impacts your ability to innovate. So this is about freedom. It's about giving your employees freedom. It's about freedom breeding diversity, and then diversity becoming success, not only for individuals but for companies as well. And I start every presentation the same way. I picture my two daughters, Lucy and Stella. They're 5 and 3. All right, so freedom. A great quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and it talks to this story that I tell often about NASA. NASA tends to overemphasize the fact that they run a lot of tests. They run a lot of solo flights. They run a lot of missions where they learn a lot, and it really stems back to we actually had someone on from NASA. I can't remember exactly who from the podcast. It's on Google. And they said this exact same thing, that you need to run test after test, and you're really not looking for a success rate, because if you're 100% successful, you haven't learned anything from your test. There's hundreds of engineers watching this thing, and if nothing goes wrong or you don't learn anything, you have no lessons learned at the end of your project. What was the value? It's hard to see a return on investment, and that particularly is the key within innovative companies. Product companies, software companies, really anyone who manages information needs to be one of those players these days. So, great quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and really, perhaps your culture isn't up to Mahatma Gandhi's standards, but that's the starting point, right? You're always innovating, you're always evolving, culturally and organizationally, and the work's going to be fun. That's really what it comes down to. That at the end of cultural change, you've got a lot of friends, and those friends end up being coworkers. So, what is freedom to you specifically? Like, what are the words that come to your mind? I always think of empowerment, permission, flexibility. In my professional life, resources, getting those project resources fulfilled, time, money, decision power, respect, trust. And in this context, I really think about personal productivity. If I have several coworkers who have stated on a regular basis that they're flabbergasted, to use that term, about my ability to execute, my ability to deliver. And what they don't see behind the scenes is that I'm paying a lot of money for a lot of the tools that I'm using, and I take them everywhere I go, so I'm used to using them. It's the equivalent to skill sets, you know, in the earlier years. The digital tools that you use and the digital skills that you leverage within those tools are the old school resume. So this personal productivity thing, it came to my mind actually, and was inspired by Rob England specifically, his Standard and Case book. And I was reading it, and you know, he basically splits work as we know it, tasks, whatever, into two main categories: standards, which are things that are known, repeatable, you know, queue-based, widget in, widget out, you know, assembly line work, so very known output, very known input, very controlled and directed. And he also separated the concept then of everything else that was unknown, you know, unique, the really hard stuff to do, the unknown project work. In many cases, you know, if you're trying to innovate within a company and, you know, no one's ever rolled a school management system, you know, that's going to be a large amount of discovery. And so he splits the work into these two categories, and it makes a lot of sense. He describes it specifically, I think anyway, as a supplementary way of separating work that can be assigned to different employees based on their preference. So if I'm the kind that likes factory work, I like known inputs, I like known outputs, I like seeing gamified work. You know, it's the repeatable stuff, the stuff that people are used to doing hundreds of times a day, and becoming very successful at it and better at it every day. And those people really understand automation, they understand the organization, and they work within bounds really well. The people who work cases are, you know, for lack of a better term, the right-brained, the people who are more abstract, random, or abstract, concrete, or they're going to have different working styles. That's really what it comes down to. So he inspired a lot of the content for this, so I'll make reference to that a couple times throughout the deck here. So, with great power comes great responsibility. So, this really is it's about the trust cycle. So, those of you that are familiar with the Maryville virtual team collaboration intellectual property, you're familiar that with the trust cycle. So it's sort of like a baseball diamond. It starts with respect up here. It starts with respect on first base. You can tell I don't watch a lot of sports. It starts with respect over here. So if we're going to build trust, we start with respect. Oh, can't really see that. It's not high enough contrast. Respect. Oh, good. And he can spell it. How many people have a song stuck in their head right now? Raise your hand. Okay, so beyond respect, once you get respect, that starts to grow into trust. Eventually, it's the basis for trust. And once you've got trust within people, you can then get to commitment. And commitment is a great place to be. That's really where you're getting the most productivity out of your coworkers and productivity out of yourself, because you're all committed. That's really where you're going to see like unified teams. And then those commitments, you know, once you've worked on them long enough, people start to understand through repetition, if nothing else, a strategic vision, a vision for where the team, where the company wants to go. And you can see in the demonstration, or on the slide anyway, that respect builds trust, and trust that allows a power over your team and with your coworkers. You know, when the Steam, the Valve employee handbook was leaked, there's an incredible picture where it shows how they work. And really all it is two people coming together with a great idea and working towards it. And I think that's the same thing that you can achieve with trust. It's the best way. It's changing managing by directive to managing by objective. So it's coming together and forming teams. I mean, the truest definition of a team. So here's some guidance. I've outlined a lot of things that I think apply here. A couple of these definitely came from IT Skeptic directly. Specifically, policy and guidelines. I keep it no secret that I am a radical thinker when it comes to information security and policies and guidelines, and that's not the Maryville way, and that's not the IT Skeptics way either. And I think both of them have a place. It's about balance. You know, it's a spectrum. How much rigor do you need to provide around specific things? And you know, all of us, anyone who has kids understands this. Anyone who has dogs understands this. That people need boundaries. They need to understand where that line of no return is. If I share this out, how am I going to get out of it? And you know, make sure that you set expectations for when trust is gone. It sounds sad. I mean, it really is sad when trust is gone. But always start with an exit strategy is kind of the policy. So, and then procedure. You want to develop good procedures for your content. So if within the activities for casework you don't understand what the next step is, that means that your procedures probably just aren't quite right. Some really good principles that leverage this methodology usually revolve around very open-ended questions: who, what, where, when, why, how, and you just keep asking that over and over. I mean, that's case management. So and then there's people. I love the people element. Hire adults. I think I've said that in every speech for the last 3 years that I've given. I like the Drucker principle, managing by outcomes. I think that's fantastic. You know, there's one person that I work with. His name is Bill. Bill, if you're listening, I love working with you. And he always starts every conference call or every task definition without what is the goal. I think having that in mind from the very get-go is one of the best ways to create change. Those of you familiar with our change leadership methodology know this. So what are some benefits of splitting up work in these two streams? What are the benefits of giving people the freedom to work how they need to when you get to case management? Really, it's the freedom to excel. Your workaholics are going to work a lot more. They're going to use the tools that they want to do, that they want to use. The hard part is if you've got workaholics who don't have a lot of money and can't find good free tools, they're going to start asking for a budget. So just be careful on that front. And that second point on the left, man, that is the best part of having teams that are free. I think it's the best part of working at Maryville. It's just my opinion. When I am using good tools, and I said it at the beginning of the presentation, if I'm using good tools and collaborating with my team, much like I'm collaborating with you right now, people see that and they're flabbergasted. They get excited. They want to learn new things. They want to try new ways of communicating things. So give people freedom to beget freedom, I guess. There's lots of downstream impact. Trust your team. I've already mentioned those a few times. Common complaints are addressed quickly because people come together. So, for instance, if you've got a case where a system needs to be upgraded, say your school management system needs an upgrade. If two teachers are complaining about the same thing and both of them have the power to instigate change, it's likely that those common complaints are going to come out of the woodwork, and you're going to get those fixed. And the greater the amount of people that want them fixed, the better it is. It's sort of like forming a mob. It's a mob mentality. If every teacher in the building needs this thing fixed, you'll get that complaint addressed quickly because it's productivity and it's people's lives. So the next actions, because you always have to include next actions. What sort of actions do you want to get to build this trust, to build a team that can collaborate together using freedom? give access and tools. And if you aren't giving some of your frontline staff access to the proper technology, comfortable working space, start there. Really brainstorm with them. From a leadership perspective, you want to look at developing policies with specific examples and consequences. So start setting those boundaries, really, is what it comes down to. And then just go back to work. If you've got caseworkers and standard workers that are, these standard workers are working on incidents and these caseworkers over here are working on problems, just go back to work, and maybe they just need to assign the task queue to someone else, or reassign the tasks. But you get the idea. So what other downstream impacts are there? Usually people with the freedom to collaborate how they want to can get a lot more input. So a perfect example yesterday was I was getting on a team call where we were just brainstorming. We actually were dissecting where some Six Sigma principles intersected with some other methods that we were using. And so we just had to start mapping it out. And so me, being the sharer that I am and given the freedoms that I am, I created a collaborative workflow chart using a common online diagramming tool. And, people loved it. Immediately we were chatting and commenting on there. I was getting input from more team members because not everyone speaks the same language. Not everyone likes to navigate the political hierarchy that shows the left-hand side there, and not everyone's willing to speak up, especially in a conference call situation. How many times have you stumbled over someone else trying to speak at the same time as you on a conference call? So often those hubs on the right-hand side in the social network are extroverts in your company. So not everyone is able to work this way. And so that kind of goes back to the freedom statement. Although, a lot of us assume that freedom means new tools and new access and, bright and shiny whatevers, just know that that isn't for everyone. So some people manage well face-to-face. Some people collaborate well face-to-face. So it's really about enabling your virtual team to collaborate, build, and communicate the ways that they need to. So better tools mean better results. I bring this up because Chris Dancy famously quipped on the ITSM Weekly podcast, if you're having a plumber over to your house, you don't want him to show up and say, you don't want her to show up and say, hey, where are your tools? I need a pipe wrench. I'm soldering. Where's your brush? No, you want them to bring their own tools. You want them to bring the tools that are right for their job, because you don't have the understanding of that. Well, maybe you are a plumber, and in which case I've got some work for you. So give me a shout out. No, I'm kidding. So that's one of the benefits, and I really like getting comfortable with the tools that I like, and usually better tools translates into better results. That's a good metric or return on investment justification measure. So where does this work? I mean, the answer is everywhere. It really does work everywhere. The examples that some people give are, what about highly regulated government industries? We can't just install any software. They go, well, I'm not talking about software, and I'm not talking about installing things. Maybe, if you don't have the collaborative technologies that you need, maybe you are using a whiteboard and, using Skype video chat or a Link Messenger video chat if you've got Microsoft Shop, or if you can't share video, you've got smart boards and people can see what you're drawing and you can see what they're drawing. It can work everywhere. It's just a matter of navigating those boundaries that are in your policies. It usually requires that you have good culture. If you've got issues with accountability and responsibility, then that is tough. And if you've got a lot of finger pointing around failures, that is, I mean, you're going to have a hard time with adoption and culture. So you want to make sure that if you are taking this route and you don't think that your culture is prepared for freedom and flexibility of work, that you've got a guru along the way. I hate that term. William Goddard hates that term too. He said it the other day. It's totally true. It's not a good term, but you want to bring someone with the wisdom and vision to drive cultural change and drive organizational change. And if you're going to split up your work into two categories of standard and case as a supplement, make sure that you've got the workforce that actually wants that. Don't make this a management down choice. This is something that you need to pitch to your team. You need to tell them what's in it for them. You need to market and sell it to them, because what you'll get is better productivity. So it's your job to sell it to them and get them convinced. And if they aren't, then that maybe not a good fit. Some other myths, I talked about highly compliant industries already, and a lot of people think that people are just going to take advantage of being able to install whatever software that they want. But if you set good boundaries, you shouldn't have to worry about it. I know which work at Maryville I can put on Evernote and on Dropbox. I know which Maryville work I can put internally that has to be password protected. I know the things that need to have 2 levels of authentication. I know the data that has to be stored on the client site that I can't even get to it from my house. And so just make sure that people know and understand those boundaries, where the fences lie, where the mines are buried. So how work is done, this aligns to your culture. So when we're talking about the freedoms that you want to give people, this is really the cultural scorecard that you need to look at. What kind of business are you? Are you an innovative company? Are you selling new widgets? Are you making new widgets? Do you have short product cycles where you're releasing new products and you're always doing massive R&D? You need to make sure that you're empowering people to do advances. If you're in a rapid growth period, you're going to have to forgive more mistakes and make sure that people are learning from them, just like NASA. If you're a caring, this is a great story. I love this story because it's a human story. If you're a caring or giving organization, there's one company that I've worked with in the past, and they provide senior living, senior assistance, and they really do not like automation. People want to talk to the same person that they've talked to for 30 years. When they've got a problem, they want to hear their voice. And so, things like that, they really affect your culture and how your employees work. Because look at that, there's not going to be any self-service in that situation. That's going to be a lot of voice, a lot of hands-on. When you're talking automation, you're not talking about automating the customer. You're talking about automating the agents of the customer. So just make sure that you understand how your company functions, so that you're leading your department and team culture in much the same direction. Because that last one down there, where it says investor focused, and it's talking about auditability, that is tough to get with the caring and giving point, because they aren't they're mutually exclusive. One hand does not feed the other in this case. So just really understanding your culture and customizing cultural change to fit that. I love that customer focused, the second to last bullet point, culture, and investor focused are separate. How can you be both? One is financial and one is customers being happy. I'm just kidding. So jab. So whenever I've given this presentation before, and usually the question that everyone has right away is, great, now I know what kind of culture I want. Whoopity-doo. What do I do next? How do I actually change culture? People want to know the steps, because that's how we work now. We work by tasks. So I love this because it is succinct, easy, and I've seen it work. Be the change you want to see. I worked at a large financial institution once, and you know, their meetings were really boring. It was tough to sit through them, and lots of people griped about it to me afterwards. They just did not like sitting in a meeting. So I just started making meetings more fun because that's what I wanted to see. Um, uh, when you're leading a team, when you're working with people who are passionate about their jobs or not passionate about their jobs, that you can lead by example. That second bullet point, grow and inspire yourself to grow and inspire others. If you're not growing and being inspired, there's no way that they are. And hire really good people that can learn. That good people bit, I gloss over and I read it really fast, but that really is what it comes down to, because a lot of technical skills are just not needed anymore. Whatever industry you're in, when it comes to generalist work, it's usually very similar. Treat people as the golden rule, I guess, kind of passes down. The example that I usually give about that one is, that small talk before meetings. Usually it's obtuse and sometimes there's no real value there, but taking the time to listen to people and understand their situation will have a great positive impact on your ability to influence them, to align them. If you ask Tammy about her kids the next time that you meet and you say, how's Tommy? How are the kids? Yeah, anything, really. It's an investment that you're making in your relationship, and therefore it's an investment in your employee. Briefly describe your end goal. So if you're trying to drive cultural change and you don't know what you're headed towards, how are you going to hit it? This comes back to objective-based work. So make sure that you know what culture you want to get to, and I'll kind of get to this again at the end. Model your behavior to match. So do as you say you will do. Model your behavior to match that future state culture, and then expect others to match. And that, that'll take time and patience, a lot of patience. Especially if you don't have patience, it'll take all of your patience. But people will slowly come around. But that comes back to hiring good people too. So it's a cycle. It's a lot like the water cycle. So what does this mean to IT service pros? Promote a culture of inclusion. There's this great idea that I read about, I can't quite remember where, but they talked about how a company whose employees are engaged and actively consulted on business decisions have a higher perception of business value. So not necessarily that the business value is greater, but because they were involved, they perceive that it was greater because they're delivering some of the results. Delusion or not, it creates this optimism that's sort of subversive in a way. No idea is a bad idea. Make sure you have good project ideation strategy. Consider it. We built one at the Knowledge conference, and people freak out about it. They're amazed that people would take ideas as Kickstarter projects within companies. I think it's rudimentary. This has been in Clarity for years. Mariner has this, and really it should be within your request system. I mean, that is the other request that we're talking about. Anyway, no idea is a bad idea. Take all the ideas. I'm sorry, I'm rambling now. Information security and contract review process is critical to success, because if you're setting up these boundaries, you need to understand your information security policy. I mean, you need, like I said when I was talking about Maryville data, like there are these different fences that my data fits into, and some of them are really wide fences and I can roam free, and some of them are really narrow fences. So make sure that you've got InfoSec and contract review, because that contract review is a big deal. Because if you're giving people freedom, you're saying like, hey, you can use Evernote now. Well, that's great. Is your legal team ready to review that EULA? Because you might not be ready for Evernote now. Like, always assume that you can't use it until the contract review process is there. But give your employees the ability to submit into the contract review process, because I mean that's one of the operational financial aspects that you'll hit. You'll need to pay for more contract review. Use financial and resource restrictions to manage timeline aggressiveness. I mean, that's project management 101. I won't even go over it. Give your employees a voice. Listen and understand to frustrations. Assign responsibility to address frustrations. That's management 101. I mean, listening is it's a beautiful thing. You're providing therapy and collaborating. It's a beautiful thing. Watch what people are passionate about and allow them to realize their own potential. So that kind of goes back to that Kickstarter thing. A lot of people were fascinated by the idea that even though I work in whatever finance, if there's a Kickstarter idea out there about revamping an HRIS system or some marketing or something, I could still get involved and have an active voice for a project that I'm passionate about. And maybe my financial career choices are not what I actually wanted. I wanted to be over in HR. Don't do it. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But it is what people are actually interested about and leveraging that interest. So thank you for your attention. This is the end of my presentation. The first person to tweet at Matt Beran, TFT13, I guess just tweet at Matt Beran and tag TFT13. Tweet something from my presentation, please. Provide value to your readers, please. But the first person, or of the people that tweet that out, I'll give a Standard and Casebook out. I've got it right here. So it's not signed, or I'll sign it for Rob, and you can get that. Otherwise, I do really suggest buying it. It is a good read, a good supplement. And then there's a free ebook as well. You can go to that Owly link or the QR code. This is about culture development, and the book is fantastic. There's 2 checklists in there, and I'm a checklist guy. Checklist manifesto. It's a good one too. The checklists in there are a questionnaire of what your culture is like. So it's a cultural assessment kind of. And then the other checklist is kind of a questionnaire about where your vision for your culture should go. And so check that out. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Email me or tweet me any questions at any time. I will always answer. Thank you.
Okay, well, you've already had a couple people be on social media tweeting and making comments about the presentation, so you've got a couple books to go out the door already.
Nice. Thank you all.
So there was a couple really interesting comments that came through the stream. One was, let's see here, from Ryan Ogilvy, said, spot on, identifying the outcomes. This would spare us from so many meetings with rework and time wastage. I thought that was a great comment.
Definitely, definitely.
Let's see, what else did I note here?
My hands are shaking. I can't wait to read the stream.
You feeling a little bit of withdrawal there from just being up on during the presentation instead of being able to have your phone accessible and ready to go?
Well, the eye devices, they turn on the screen and it's sitting over here, so you may have actually seen my eyes go over because it lights up and says, hey, such and such a person mentioned this. I just wish that Siri was listening and could take my responses down. Thanks, Mauricio.
Yeah, so and one of the things that really stood out for me, especially as you were talking about the whole cultural aspect of it, and I think it's really thematic throughout the conference, is the whole notion of being engaged. Because Saurabh said, if people are bored from meetings, make meetings fun. And there's a certain part of that that I do believe is accurate. And yet, if we ramp up the fun.
More like a quadrant. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Cool.
There's a point on that quadrant that every company fits into. Yeah, and those fun meetings don't always fly, especially when you're talking about information security or some of those tough issues. A retail company goes down on Black Friday. That meeting shouldn't be fun. If that meeting is fun, you might have dysfunction issues, not functional issues. So Be realistic. Be realistic for the right situation. That's about maturity too.
Yeah, and actually one of the things I noticed, it was, let's see, who was it? I forget who it was, but I put a hashtag in one of the tweets about the conference itself. It was Rui. It was about that things are fitting. So if we actually just look to see what's fitting for the particular circumstances or situation that we find ourselves in, we'll always have that compass to be able to keep us true to where we need to be. So at some point it might need to be serious. At some point it might be able to be fun. And if we don't actually provide that, then it has something be a little bit less than what it could be.
Yeah, fit for purpose. And yeah, when you do it, like for instance, we do that podcast, people want both. It's a good balance of fun, entertainment, and real data. Same thing within meetings. Imagine a meeting is like a 3-ring circus. You need to balance everything. Yeah, and make it short. Make them short. 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Come on. I love what works better? An hour-long meeting that only, five in the first 5 minutes you have 20 actions. An hour-long meeting, you want that, or do you want like 5-minute meetings 5 times a week? That seems much more approachable to me. It goes back to the Scrum meeting, I guess. I don't really like that term anymore, but those quick meetings, just where are you at? What's stopping you? Okay, you're good. Go. I love those meetings. I did that. We're revamping some web work right now, and so we just do quick 15-minute meetings 5 times a week, and we've made tons of progress because in those first 15 minutes, everyone can get a task quickly.
And certainly there is an element of timeliness that's, it's, again, part of the fitting portion is being sensitive to time. And having a plan that if we're normally going to do a sit down and do an hour, but really in the name of timeliness, in the name of what's fitting, we need to do one where it's like, okay, no, we're going to do a stand-up. We're going to take 5 minutes, identify the core issue, and get all hands to the pumps to deal with whatever's up in front of us. Then, that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Not just going through it for the sake of, hey, this is what we do and how we do it.
This presents itself this presents itself often in the case of visiting clients. We'll give clients some work to do, but for 8 hours a day, they're doing meetings all day long where they're not able to be productive. And so they end up getting no work done, or they end up overworking themselves. So, don't book everyone's calendar all the way up unless you're doing it to make sure that they can be productive during that time. Because, again, it's a balance between meetings and productivity.
And from your experience, how often do you encounter situations where you're bringing that kind of new thinking in, but there's a cultural undercurrent that's keeping it from really taking hold? And is there anything specific that you might be able to say about, hey, what can you do to kind of dynamite that thing and get it moving again?
Yeah, that is, it's tough. Financial institutions, I hate to stereotype. I really hate stereotyping, but the one of the largest clients I've ever worked at was a financial institution, and it was really, it was cathartic to go through the project. I came on site for the first time, and I felt underdressed, and I was wearing a bow tie, and immediately the stories started coming out about people that were either wasteful with money or saving money. Like everyone in the company, even within IT, still had this like financial, they cared a lot about finance. Like you could tell that the budget keeping for this project was going to be tight, like really tight. And so, you don't try to mess with things that are so ingrained and so it's part of the DNA of an organization. You get it where you can get it. If it's a meeting about designing service request items, you make something funny about one of their competitors. You build a service request item. So you're doing this demonstration so that they understand how an item is built in BMC, or how an item is built in Tivoli, and they see this competitive stuff and then they think it's hilarious. And you show their return on, I don't know, stock is -70 and they're going down, down, down. Like just adding some elements of fun that are harmless, but get people excited about the mundane and the boring. It can have a very positive impact. And you'll go into a meeting and you'll see someone else do the exact same thing. And what is the best compliment? So.
Okay. Well, hey, any closing thoughts about your presentation today?
I love this conference. Thank you so much. SDI, thank you so much. Chris, thanks for setting this up. The larger attention span of everyone in the world. Thank you. Thank you, Kengan.
Well, thank you, Matt. I think you did a great job, and I was so glad to be able to engage with you as part of your presentation. So thanks for playing along and having it be a real fun experience.
Likewise.
Okay, take care, y'all. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next TFT13 presentation. Bye for now.
Introducing My IT from BMC Software. One quick download, and the way your users think about IT changes forever. Let's say they need a networked printer, or a Wi-Fi connection, or even a map of an office they're visiting. My IT already knows where they are, and shows them a list of available resources and services pre-configured for their devices. Or maybe your user needs help with something more complex. With My IT, they can do most things themselves. But if they can't, they can simply schedule an appointment with a technician who can. In short, My IT is built to make your IT organization more modern and your users infinitely happier, dramatically changing the perception of your services